welcome back to another Think Neuro video. My name is Amara and I am a psychobiology major at UCLA. And today I'll be talking to you guys about rhetoric for elementary and middle school students. So pretty much in this video, we're going to talk about how to read a research article. There are many reasons why scientists read research papers: to stay up to date on what new studies are being done, to help understand previous studies and also identify future directions, or even just for simple curiosity. While we won't go into too much depth on research papers in this lesson, it's good practice to know the basics for your upper level courses. And remember, it's perfectly okay to feel nervous or to just not have a lot of experience reading research as an elementary or middle school student. But just remember, practice makes perfect. So now for an overview, today we'll be focusing on how to choose research articles, what the scientific method actually is, and also how to cite our sources. Let's get started. This is just an overview slide. And so how do we choose a research article? Well, we definitely want to get our information from somewhere that's credible, right? A credible source is one that is free from bias and also backed up with evidence. It's also generally written by a trustworthy author or organization. With the internet available, it is so easy for misinformation to spread, so it's extremely important to get your data only from sources you trust. Aspects that make a research article trustworthy include up-to-date information, unbiased writing, and also trustworthy authors. But now that we found our article, how do we take notes on it? The simple answer is however you want to. So everybody has a different way of taking notes that works best for them. However, we do want to emphasize what you should be paying attention to and taking notes of when reading a research article. So generally what you want to be keeping track of is any information that you think is relevant for your research. This includes any key terms, facts and figures, and also your own ideas and opinions about the paper, like whether or not it was super interesting or kind of confusing at times. In general, try to take notes on whatever you think will be important. And remember, just take notes in a way that makes sense to you. And now on to the scientific method. But first, what even is a hypothesis? Well, a hypothesis is a proposed explanation for a phenomenon. It's an idea that scientists have about how the world works that they can test experimentally. You can kind of think about it as a sort of educated guess about what will happen in your experiment. For example, let's say you're blowing up a balloon. An example of a hypothesis would be that the balloon will pop if you blow too much air into it. So let's move on to this next slide. Right here you see the steps of the scientific method. What the scientific method is, it is just a method of research where a problem is identified, data is gathered, and a hypothesis is formulated and tested. It's a way for scientists to pretty much study how the world works just by observing it. There are many steps in the scientific method, as you can see on this slide, but generally the steps go like this. You first ask a question, you gather information about that question, you make and test a hypothesis, you analyze your results. Sometimes you might have to modify your hypothesis and go back, but then in the end, all you want to do is present a conclusion or an answer to this question that you proposed. By going through this process, scientists have a way to verify their guesses and also to double check with each other. This allows for another scientist to take a look at your tests and also run some more tests to continue adding and refining your question. We do want to note, however, that the scientific method is not linear. So like you see here, you might have to do multiple tests before you get any evidence to make a claim about your hypothesis, but don't be discouraged. And finally, let's move on to citation. So why do we cite our sources? Well, citing your sources is good because it acknowledges the authors who took their time researching and writing their own unique literature. You always have to make sure to cite your sources or else you'll be accused of plagiarism, which is when you take someone else's work and claim it as your own. Imagine that you spent hours and hours and hours working on a project just for someone to come up and take all the credit for themselves. Is that fair? No. So that's why we cite our sources, to acknowledge the people who wrote the original work and also to give credit where it's due. Now, while there are many different citation styles, which you'll learn more about in high school and in your upper level courses, for now we'll just focus on the basics. To cite a source, you want to remember to write down where you got the information. You want to write down the book or the article's name, any relevant page numbers, and also the author's names that you might come across when using a piece for your research. And now let's try it. So please make sure to fill out the Google form with some checkpoint questions to receive credit for this video. If you also want an extra hour of volunteering, you can also complete the attached lesson activity where you'll be given a scientific paper and asked to take notes on it. You'll also be able to take notes on that same Google form, same thing as the checkpoint questions, so make sure to fill that out. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them on the Google Classroom forum, and we look forward to seeing you at our next lesson.